and blessings, and welcome to another edition of King Talk Tuesdays. I'm your host, Andy King, the show with real views, real news, and real talk. Every Tuesday on King Talk Tuesdays, we cover so many topics, whether it's education, health, economics, spirituality, and so much more. I look forward to you all joining me for more dynamic and inspiring conversations each and every week. King Talk Tuesdays is streaming live on Facebook and on our YouTube channel every Tuesday at 8 p.m. King Talk Tuesday also airs on BronxNet Television every Thursday evening at 10:30 p.m. and on Optimal Channel 70 and Fios Channel 2136, as well as a number of streaming services which include Roku TV, Amazon Prime, Millennial TV 24, and Clash TV. I encourage all our viewers to subscribe to our YouTube channel so you don't miss any of our previous episodes. You can also check local listeners to catch any of our previous King Talk Tuesdays that are airing throughout the week. I want to thank everyone who's been tuning in today and tuning in over the past couple of years. And remember, you know what I always say, right? People pay attention to people who participate. So please tell a friend, tell a neighbor that King Talk Tuesdays is on now. You can drop a comment or a question in our cute YouTube and Facebook sections, or you can also email us at kingtalktuesdays@gmail.com. Again, our email address is kingtalktuesdays@gmail.com. We'll be right back on King Talk Tuesdays after a couple of words from our friends.
Welcome to Reparations, where we get you back to life. We offer physical therapy, occupational therapy, and speech therapy. We accept all major insurances. Don't worry about an appointment. At Reparations, walk-ins are accepted. We have locations in the Bronx, Manhattan, Queens, and New Jersey. Our therapists, combined with our cutting-edge technology, will get you back to life. Visit our website at www.therodynamics.com for locations, services, and more.
Hi, Frank Perez here from Eastchester Chrysler Jeep Dodge Ram, where you'll always pay the least in the East. There has never been a better time to stop in and save. Right now, during our summer savings event, take advantage of some incredible offers with savings up to $15,000 off MSRP on every new Jeep in stock. Even lease a new Jeep Compass for just $299 a month with zero due at signing. That's zero due at signing, just sign and drive. Eastchester Chrysler Jeep Dodge Ram, pay the least in the East.
It's Jeep season.
Oh, yeah, pay the least in the East. Oh, yeah, Chrysler Jeep, one of our best car dealers who make sure they transport neighbors from the Bronx and beyond. Also, we're going to give a shout out and thank you to Thorough Dynamics, who help put our lives back together. Whether it's an injury to our neck, back, knees, eyes, ankles, whatever it is, Thorough Dynamics has the answer. So, there's a lot of things that are happening, but I really just want to know, well, as our good old friend used to say, Marvin Gaye, what's going on? What's going on? What's going on? Well, let's talk about what's going on. Well, this coming Saturday, we know that it is graduation season for all of our students who have been braving the elements and getting into the classroom, whether it's remote or in their school, but doing all they can to educate and meet the requirements to be graduates. So the Bronx Youth Empowerment Program this Saturday will be hosting its annual graduation cookout celebration, honoring the class of 2023 from college to high school to middle school, all the way down to elementary. We want to celebrate those young, bright minds who've met the requirements as they tackle the next stage of their lives. Next, we want to talk about this weekend was something called Father's Day. Well, to all our brothers who get it right, to all our brothers who produced them and taking care of them each and every day and night, I want to say thank you. Because when you make them, you got to take care of them, And I say to everybody, I was blessed and grateful to have a dad who raised me, who's in the household. But if your father is not there, latch onto that young man, latch onto that wise man that can offer you the wisdom and guide and protect you and lead you to manhood. I love my mama, and no matter how great my mama is, I can't say that women can teach a young boy how to be a man or a father. They can give some guidance of how to be better human beings and how to treat the first lady that they ever meet in their lives, because their example of a great woman that they will meet will be the mother. The mother will be that first example of the relationship with the opposite sex. So if your mama's getting it right, you're definitely going to pick a young lady who's getting it right too. But to all our young men, make sure you do right by your sons and your daughters that you creating. Again, blessings to all the men who are standing up and doing what they're supposed to do. Just that simple. And next, we want to talk about, oh, we're in the 50th year of hip hop. There's a lot of action and activities and celebrations and honoring that is going on throughout the city of New York. And I'm so thankful and grateful that the Boogie Down Bronx kicked it off, 50 years ago. Kool Herc and the crew made it do what it do. So on August 11th at Yankee Stadium, August 11th at Yankee Stadium, there's going to be a great big hip hop concert that's going to go on to celebrate the 50th anniversary. And you can see those who are going to be in attendance, from Snoop Doggy Dogg, Lil Wayne, Ice Cube, and so many others that are coming out on that night. So gotta give a shout out again to Kool Herc, Melly Mel, MC Shy Rock, and all of them from the Mercedes Ladies and more, who kicked us off early in the 70s and made us rocking and grooving as we so do till today. So thank you to everyone who's celebrating the 50th year of hip hop, and thank you to all those who kicked it off. Talking about hip hop, we're living in an environment in a day and age. There is so much when it comes to spirituality being lost that's created so much violence in our neighborhoods, whether it's gang and gun activity. So I'm proudful and thankful that there's an initiative going into its 12th year out of the Biden administration. And we're thankful that on July 7th, there are going to be a number of artists that are coming together on this day in the Valley, which is Hafen Park, where hip hop against gun and gang violence. There's going to be pieces of peace that are going to be delivered from a number of artists, such as Melly Mel, who's the face that President Biden has selected to run the message, because his message, he always had the same message he gave us in the 70s is the same message that resonates today in 2023. So we're thankful for Melly Mel and his longevity. Also, my song for his energy, his spirituality, and getting out there on the front lines, helping young men understand what hip hop lyrics can do to help rise you up or tear you down. And last but not least, we're great and thankful for Nene Ali, known her since a little baby with her spoken word, motivates, stimulates, and educates all in the same vibe. So we're looking forward to her and the two brothers and so many others that are coming out on that day on July 7th, Friday, July 7th at 12 p.m. in Valley Park, Hafen Park, at the amphitheater. We're asking everyone to come on out and join us as you receive a message, but more importantly, you'll come together in unity and in love to be about what it is the hip hop community can do to help improve the lives of so many. So when we talk about that, we're talking about yesterday. Yesterday was Juneteenth. Juneteenth. Now, what does that actually mean for so many folks? Juneteenth, who talk about the Emancipation Proclamation and the Civil War and the 13th Amendment, all these things get convoluted in a conversation, but at the end of the day, it's about marking the acknowledgement and the words that were shared and the message that was delivered in Galveston, Texas. Freedom came on that day, July 19th, in 1865, when some 200 Union troops arrived in Galveston Bay, Texas. The Army announced to the 250 enslaved Black people in that state that were, by an executive decree, that they were no longer enslaved. This day became known as Juneteenth by the newly freed people in Texas. Now, we've heard a number of celebrations that have been happening. Juneteenth is something that has inspired folks. Is there more to be done? Yes, there's more to be done. I applaud us when we can celebrate the joys, as well as we recognize the pain and suffering that the foundational Black has gone through in this country. But there's a lot more to do other than just giving us the day to celebrate. There has to be a change in the dynamics. There has to be a change in policies. There has to be change in services. There has to be changes in resources. It has to be change of the mindset of how Blacks are viewed in this country. And with that being said, today I'm grateful and thankful as we talk about one of the ways that we can make the Black person whole, as I talked about in the 3/5 clause compromise, but reparations. How do we make things better for those and their ancestors who've gone through so much agony and turmoil in this country? Well, when we talk about reparations is considered to be the act of the process of mending something that was wrong. So I want to read something, because the National Coalition of Blacks for Reparations in America defines reparations as a process of repairing, healing, and restoring people injured because their group identity and in violation of their fundamental human rights by governments, corporations, institutions, and families. Those groups that have been injured have the right to obtain from the government, corporations, institution, or family responsible for the injuries that which they need to repair and heal themselves. In addition to being demand for justice, it is also a principle of international human rights. Well, one person who gets it and has been spearheading the conversation in the New York State Senate, and I'm so grateful and thankful to know this brother because he's wise, he's smart, and more importantly, he's not scared to have the conversation that changes lives. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the first time the King Talk Tuesdays. My brother, my friend, the great senator out of Queens, the Honorable James Sanders Jr. Welcome to King Talk Tuesdays, my brother.
A joy to be here with the King, and let's talk.
All right, I like that. Let's talk. Well, let's bring our other guests that are joining us in tonight as well. A good man that I've known. He's capping, or he's not capping, but he's bringing the conversation and bringing it right. He has served this country in the United States Navy, and he talks about reparations consistently as the foundational Black coming out of the South and knowing what his family experienced in this country. I want to welcome my brother Kevin C. Megan to King Talk Tuesday.
Hey, Mr. King, thank you for having me.
Any and every
Senator?
time. And finally, a sister who got her wits about her, been always on the ground when it comes to not being afraid to talk Black. You know, some people get scared when it's time to use the word Black essence, you know, or apology, being apologetic Black. I'm like, no. If we got to talk Black, it's okay to talk Black. And we're not trying to offend anybody. We just want to educate you. And if you're offended, you need to look inside yourself to see how weak-minded you are, that you can't wake up and see the light when it's rolling in you. And a young lady that brings the light all the time is my good sister, Pastor Dr. Deborah Jenkins. Welcome to King Talk Tuesday, my sister.
Thank you, Andy, for having me. Good to be on the program with the senator. And forgive me, brother, because my glasses aren't on and I'm using my phone, but I'm glad, Mr. Kevin, to be here with you as well.
Beautiful, beautiful. Well, it's like the senator just said, let's talk. So, Senator, I'm going to throw it off to you. You know, you heard me read a definition from Nancy Holbrook, what reparations mean. Talk to us a little bit about, in the state Senate, what does reparations mean to you? And as you go on and talk about your legislation, who's entitled to it?
Well, thank you again for being here. The Senate did something very historic the other day. We all got together and voted in an overwhelming fashion that we in New York State need to begin the process of studying what does reparations mean. Is it necessary? Who should get it? Things of this nature. We all know that it is focused on the African American, and we are creating a commission of 9 people, 3 picked by the Senate, 3 picked by the Assembly, 3 picked by the governor, to come to those very issues that you speak of. Now, if you question me on my individual position, I can do that, but the commission will come up with those answers that you're speaking of, brother.
Okay. So we have a commission that your legislation will set the parameters of what reparations actually mean. Is that what we're hearing tonight?
Absolutely. Not just the parameters. It will look to see the causes of the great disparities that we're finding between Blacks and whites and everyone else for that matter. And it will look to see what are the causes, what are the solutions, how do we create what is called equality of opportunity. Everybody starting at the same place. Equality of opportunity.
I like when you say equality, because there's been a conversation about equality and equity. And if I started down here and someone started up there, if we're talking about breaking us equal, then this person has to stay here as I climb up the ladder. You know, you hear some people who are non-Black, when you start talking about making things equal, they still want the ladder to go up while we say, oh, we're giving some Blacks some things, but you keep rising the ceiling for the white folk too. So you got to stop the ceiling so we can come to so we become equal. Then we start having these conversations about peace and love and can we all get along. But until our economics are way off the grid, you know, it's hard for to have those real conversations. But I want to thank you. Kevin Megan has just been talking about reparations since the month of Sundays. And as quote unquote foundational Black, Kev, you just heard the senator talk about the criteria that's going to be set by this commission. You heard him mention that, you know, it might hold a balance of different ethnicities. What are your thoughts when we start talking about reparations and who's entitled to reparations?
Well, I honestly believe we're the only group of people, foundational Black Americans, that have been wronged in this country, um, due to chattel slavery, and as well as Jim Crow. No other group could claim the exception that foundational Black Americans have. I'm just hoping that when they pick this commission, that it reflects the people that it is actually intended to study, because a person that's not connected to the problem could not really internalize an outcome or a solution for us, in my humblest opinion. Chattel slavery, as we know, was the wealth of this country. Chattel slavery was the economic fiber. The actual slaves itself became the fiber and the economy of this country, and New York is not exempt from it. Little fun fact: um, one of the largest plantations of the original 13 colonies wasn't in down south somewhere, but it was right in Brooklyn, New York. So, we have to look at that. We have to look at the fact that New York City had the most slaves, had the biggest slave population. The only other city that had more slaves than New York City was Charleston, South Carolina. So we have to look and analyze slavery. What did it mean to the economy of New York State, and of course New York City? And we have to go back and we have to rectify it from that standpoint.
So, Pastor Jenkins, you've heard the conversations from both of the gentlemen. The senator, we'd like for you to chime in because I know you continually have this conversation when you're in class teaching and so forth. So talk a little bit about the conversation so far.
The conversation so far is awesome. I am happy with what the Assembly and the Senate came up with in order to get a bill passed. And now we all are awaiting the governor's signature. I'm sure the senator can tell us a little bit more about that. And I also agree with Mr. Kevin. I know I've been on a show with Mr. Kevin before in the past, but we weren't necessarily talking about this, one of your shows. But here's the deal. Everything Mr. Kevin just said is absolutely correct. In fact, I'm actually continuing a research project right now that's funded by the Cooney Research Foundation to study the harm, the enslavement of African Americans through the Northeastern universities and colleges. I've done a lot of work with Columbia University. Rutgers has owned up to theirs. And so much just here in New York City and in New York State, because this is a statewide commission that they are establishing, speaks to the enslavement of those who are descendants of those who were enslaved here in the United States. And I believe that when the commission is established, that has to be front and center in the discussions, because everyone else who's come here, and those who are very honest about it, will admit that they've come here on the backs of the work, the enslavement of Black Americans here in the United States, those who are really honest about it. And so I say that that's where we begin. Now, when you think in terms of, and I saw some drafts and not the actual bill that the Senate was considering, New York State Senate, they were talking, when we get into Jim Crow and all of that, so then we do consider other people who look like us, right? But I think we need to be very careful to understand that the civil rights movement, the enslavement in the United States was that of Black Americans, those who descend from enslaved people here. And then that's not to discount the claims that others have, but that is why they have this wonderful organization that covers all 19 Caribbean countries, including the Dominican Republic. And I always say including because some people don't see DR as a part of the Caribbean, but in fact it is. And that organization is called CARICOM, and they are making some strides that are great. What we're trying to do here is get to the point where we can make the same types of strides that CARICOM has made on behalf of those who were enslaved throughout the Caribbean. And in so doing, we will then begin to inch a little closer to the equity that has long since been denied us and was most definitely denied our ancestors.
Wow. Well, thank you. Thank you for dropping that little science on us. Appreciate that for both you, all three of you. Well, Senator, you've heard the conversation about what's in the bill. Can you talk to us a little bit about what's actually the meat and potatoes that y'all voted for, so our general public get an idea of what's actually in the bill?
Well, let's see. I'll do that first. I'll speak to each organization, whether it's the governor's office, Senate, or the assembly, will come up with three of their wise people who will wrestle with this. Now, just for the sake of for your listeners, there's two major ideas of who should be paid and what, and we won't even speak of what the pay is. The two major ideas is, one idea is that only the descendants of the enslaved in America, the descendants of the enslaved in America are eligible for reparations. Another view says that no, all blacks who have been here have been hit with Jim Crow, American apartheid, or other discriminations. So therefore, all should receive reparations. Those are the two big divisions in terms of who should get. And then, of course, there's conversation over what to get.
Okay. Okay. If is there anything else? Is it a small bill, or did they try to attach anything to? Because I understand government. You pass one bill, they want to put 4 or 5 other conditions in it, so it can move forward. Is there any under the table or under the blanket, things that got attached to this bill that might hinder it from the governor signing it?
Well, I'll say this. I'll say no, sir. This one, it's a standalone, and no, we don't have to go and do this for that one or that for this one. However, let me alert you that the one of the real problems, if you wish, is, will the governor sign the bill? We need her to create the study commission, and if she refuses to and vetoes it, are we willing to use an override to override her veto and have it happen? We do have a supermajority in the Senate and the Assembly. So those are some very worthy questions that need to be sorted out. We'll know in time.
So I'm going to stick with you, Senator, because today's conversation is really about this bill. And other than California, New York appears to be the second state to take up the conversation and looking to create a commission to address reparations. What is the feeling in both of the houses? I know you voted for it. It voted and went out to the governor's office. What is the emotional feel about it? Because not everyone voted for it. Talk to us.
Well, it was one of the most emotional issues that I ever had, and we were debating this or discussing this in the Democratic conference. And remember, with a supermajority, if we got all the Democrats together, you can pass the bill. If every Republican went in a different way, if the Democrats stood together on this, you could pass it. When we passed it when we said that we would pass this in the conference, after a moment or two, the weight of history started weighing in on me, and I was saying that incredible that we are about to do this. Now, I am the son of a sharecropper and the son of a domestic worker, and I know a little something of this. My people come out of Alabama and South Carolina, so the weight of history started weighing in, and my eyes started welling up. And I'm in front of 40 people. I'm a Marine. I'm not given to crying a great deal, not in front of people. So I, did the macho thing, started, quickly wiping my eye, and that didn't work. I ran out of hands to work, and I had to pick up a napkin, and after a while, there was nothing that I could do. The weight of history of knowing all of these people that have been massacred, the mass incarceration, the rapes, the castration, just the weight of history, the stolen wealth hit me and very much humbled me with the idea that we are going to start a process to bring some justice. The undeserving, those folk deserve greater people than we can ever be. But by the grace of God and hard work, we will be what's needed.
I am so grateful and thankful for you. My family's from the South, Alabama and Georgia as well. And I remember the stories of being told by grandmothers and great aunts and what they had to experience when they were 14, and talk about what their parents, and I was blessed to have a couple of great uncles. I'm 5 years old. I'm meeting an 83-year-old, in 1968. So that takes you back to 1900 something, and telling their story about what life was, and them being able to survive it at the same time. So I applaud you, because this is a heavy lift for any one person, but it's a lift that's necessary. And if anyone disrespects this lift, shame on them. They should be removed, because no love lost to any other set of people on this planet. But you heard Brother Meggett say it best. There's been no other people on this planet have gone through a lifetime of existence in this soil and still are going through the trials and tribulations from the day one of landing on this soil. Or should I say, brought to the soil, because not like everybody would say, hey, let's just go over there, a couple of thousand years ago. Or we say 100, because I don't want people to confuse when we start talking numbers. They start talking about 3,000, 4,000. We start messing it up, when we start talking that long. America ain't 2,000, 3,000 years old, so we can't keep talking that far back. Meggett, you're back on the scene. I don't know if you heard what the senator was talking about. His family's from the South, and the heavy lift that he had to embark on and restrain himself at the same time. But when emotions hit, what should we be doing as a people, as a Black people, foundational Black?
Um, I think we should put our emotions, and I applaud you for trying to put your emotions in check, because that's one of the things that we don't do as a people. And I'll give you a primary example. When other groups are seeking resources, they deal with whomever, the government, private sector, whomever. It's checks and balance. This is what's wrong. We need this fixed. And how much is it? And that's how they conduct business. Any other group does that. Europeans do it. Hispanics do it. LGBTQ, they do it. Whoever. This is the problem. This is how you fix it. When it comes to us, we got to get rid of symbolic gestures, and what I mean by that is, when we start asking for certain things, we start pouring libation. We have a concert. We have to start getting in the mindset of building just like everyone else, because all of this building that other groups done, they mimicked us to begin with. We just stopped. At some point, we just said, we must have forgot instantly how to build. If you ever wanted to see where successful foundational Black Americans once stood, look no further than the highway, because the government plowed right through it. So a lot of Seneca Village, that was a foundational Black American town. We have to look at all of these things and say, how do we put dollars and cents to it? When you walk through Washington Square Park, you're walking on a foundational Black American cemetery, as well as where the World Trade Center is. That was also a foundational Black American cemetery. So how do we really put a dollar and cents on it? But bigger than that, how do we pull back the symbolic gestures that don't help us as a people? And I'm in favor of the first um, um, proposal, where it should only you should reparations should be given to those. If you're able to trace your lineage back to a plantation, you deserve reparations. It should be lineage based. And now I understand some people came and say, well, I came from somewhere else and suffered Jim Crow, but the operative word is it was a choice. You chose to come here. You could have chose to go back, and I don't mean to sound unkind, but I had no choice where I was here. I know no other place but the United States of America, and my family too is from Charleston, South Carolina, and Edisto Island. And with that said, also, we didn't all come by a ship either. A lot of us were already here, and evidence of that is 2 weeks ago, my brother and I went up to the Shinnecock reservation, and those people are very melanated. So what do we do with that information that melanated Native Americans or Native or indigenous Aborigine people were already here in America, and they too were used in a similar fashion or misused in a similar fashion? So it's kind of intricate, but we need to really get a good study. We have to put experts with this study. One of my biggest master teachers is Dr. Claude Anderson. I live by everything that this man has ever. I've been following the good doctor since 1989, and he has really the solution. And we need folk like that to come in and say, this is what we need.
Thank you. Well, with that being said, I have to go to a halftime break right now. For those of you who've been tuning in, you know me, ex-basketball player. Got to stretch sometimes so I don't catch a cramp in my lyrics and my larynx and keep on going. So we just want to thank everybody who's been tuning in to King Talk Tuesdays. We're going to be right back after another break from a couple of our friends.
Good Neighbors Community Outreach Agency provides programs that help community residents improve their lives and support their families. Are you in need of food, clothing, employment, or a home? We also provide immigration services and passport renewal.
Hi, I'm Pastor Glad.
And I'm Lady D.
We're here to serve you.
Need help?
Ask us.
You can reach us by calling 718-652-3288 or visit us at gncdcny.org.
Revolution of hip hop. Bronx Terminal Market. 610 Exterior Street. Bronx, New York. Tuesday through Sunday. Pull up.
The Golden Era, 1986 through 1990.
Welcome back to King Talk Tuesdays. I'm your host, Andy King, the show with real views, real news, and real talk. We cover so many topics, whether it's education, economics, spirituality, and so much more. We air every Tuesday night on our Facebook and our YouTube channel at 8 p.m. We also air every Thursday at 10:30 p.m. on Optimal Channel 70 and Fios Channel 2136. And we're streaming on a number of services such as Prime, Roku TV, Millennial TV 24, Clash Television. And we're just saying, if you got a thought or a comment, send it to us or email us at kingtalktuesdays@gmail.com. Again, our email address is kingtalktuesdays@gmail.com. We're going to go into the second half, but you know what I always do at halftime? I just want to offer some words of love to the world that we're in. And if this world is not, and you're not of this world, offer the love to yourself so you can navigate the world we're living in right now is kind of upside down, and our students have been trying to manage the education system. Our seniors are trying to survive, and all of us are in between and making decisions for the rest of the population. So I just say, if you find yourself in a place that you're in search of Find a higher power. Find a strength of something that's bigger than yourself to help you navigate through the day in the world. For me, it's the Most High in Christ. Without Him, I can't do it. I know if I was to leave Him and allow Him to leave me, I would trip and stumble and fall. Trust me, concrete hurts. So please let the good Lord carry you where He wants you to go, not where you think you need to go. With that being said, I want to thank everybody who's tuning in. Say a prayer for yourself. Say a prayer for your family, your community, your friends, your enemies, your frenemies. Just pray for guidance, wisdom, protection, and strength to navigate the essence of this world. That being said, I want to go into a couple of comments that have come in, and because people are tuning in, I want to bring one up here. I think this brother's name is Quentin. How we say it's sister girl Quinte Danforth, which says, "Why would you agree to put the entire African continent and Caribbean communities on our backs when you know Black Americans in New York City have bore the brunt of the Black immigrants have not?" Interesting comment. I want to also give a shout out to Sister Yamaya Maxey says, provide knowledge to educate skills and put it into work. Responded to Brother Megget's. And I got to give a shout out to good man who just turned 80 years young, this Mr. McDavid. I want to say, Julian McDavid, thank you for tuning in tonight. He's an evangelist and letting his voice be known. So we're going to be tuning in a lot of these comments that have been played, that people are coming in with and letting us know what's on their mind. So we just want to say thank you to everybody who's tuned in this evening. So with that being said, let's go get back to our show. Oh, hey, Gail. Hey, hello to you too. So God is good. God is good. So we've been talking about reparations with the great senator from the borough of Queens, our New York State Senator James Sanders Jr. I've known the brother for quite a minute, and I want to say he's a brother who speaks truth to power, not scared to have the conversation, and dedicated to the cause. And that's why he's been able to stay in government so long. But more importantly, he said something earlier. People are patting you on the back on everything. Something just ain't right. What Keith Sweat said? Something just ain't right. But we know the senator is getting it right, even if some people can't figure it out. But that's what reparations is all about. When you have a set of people who have been mistreated since day one, the oppressor doesn't have the option to debate whether or not you've been an oppressor. You know, those who have been beat down don't have the luxury of saying, I haven't been beat down. And those who sit on the sidelines, as Mr. Meggett, you said, you heard him summit, pulling in on the backs of those who've been beat down, it's time to sit down and sit on the sidelines, because this conversation is truly for the person who day one, their great grandfathers who got the beat down, because the oppressor's great grandfather, you're still benefiting from the work on the slaves, enslavement that happened to my great grandfather. So I truly understand, and I appreciate you, Senator, that what you've done is historic, and I believe that the governor should and will sign it. So we talked a little bit about who should be receiving. You just heard the sister asking who should. That's going to be the crazy debate that's going to happen. But I want to start with you, Senator. Talk to us a little bit about it. And I want to talk to you, Pastor Jenkins, because you've been in child care work. You're doing youth service work as well, but you've been in the church as well. So when we start talking about reparations, what kind of reparations would you like to see be addressed? Whether it's healthcare, racism, or education, what should reparations be focused on, Senator?
Well, on a personal level, and not the commission itself, and I've been on this issue for at least 30 years, I believe that reparations has to discuss at least 4 different issues, major issues. It has to discuss economics, of course, the income disparity. We have to do something about that. We also have to do something about the health disparity. There's no sense in getting a check if you're dead tomorrow. We also have to do something about the education disparity, what's going on in our community. You will also have to work on many other modules, many other areas that need to be focused on, but those are among the chief ones. Now, there's many ways of doing this. You can do it by a check to the individual. You can do it by creating a bank, as some have said. There's a lot of good ideas out there from the different groups that have done excellent work. Forgive me if I don't I won't say the names because I will mess it up. But there are excellent works that are out there, and we're compiling and trying to figure out which way forward for our people.
Mm, okay. Well, I thank you for that. Because that's where the conversation is going to lead to. How do we, repair broken individuals, or the system that's been breaking individuals, if I can say. Dr. Deborah Jenkins, chime in and talk to us a little about when we start talking about what are we fixing. You heard him talking about systems. As a pastor, how does the church play itself in and helping fix the system when we start talking about reparations?
Absolutely. So, one additional area that I would add to the four that the senator spoke about would be rehabilitation. That has been the area where most of my work throughout my career as an adult has been centered, as you said, in youth development work, but also criminal justice reform. I think the senator mentioned that earlier about the mass incarceration. And so when you think about how the church stands to help people and heal people, it's more than just going to church on Sunday, right? It's also about providing the resources for those who have been systemically or systematically the underdogs because of institutionalized racism against them. And those people are usually people who look like the four of us. They are usually descendants of enslaved people right here in the United States. And so rehabilitation has to be at the focal point of consideration when the commission does its work. In addition, you and I both worked together a long time ago in the foster care system. I can't see rehabilitation without also including those children who are aging out of the system with not necessarily without having any direction what comes next. And so one of the things we've been doing is trying to put our faith into practical resources for people. We're doing a cybersecurity training right now for young people ages 16 to 24. Now, imagine if the commission took up the education piece and also coupled it with rehabilitation of those who've been touched by the criminal justice or the juvenile justice system, and put them in trainings. And I'm not saying this is instead of cash benefits, because as you stated earlier, there needs to be equity. I've always hated that we focus so much on equality, because we're never going to get here if there's not equity. And so equity suggests that you have been up on the top for so long and we've been on the bottom for so long. We actually need you to be still while we come up a little bit to reach where you are, so that there will be true equity and equality. And equity is really truly in this country measured in dollars. So there has to be some remuneration for those who are descendants of enslaved people in the United States. So of course that will be one of the issues addressed. The sister who wrote in, she said, one of the sisters said that there has to be some education. Well, we have to educate our people. And so my favorite economist who's weighed in on not only New York, but also California is Dr. William Sandy Darity, and his wife, Kristen Mullins. And this book is an edit that they've done along with Dr. Lucas Hubbard, and it's called the Black Reparations Project. This is one of their books, but he is definitely the chief economist that I look to when I'm trying to figure all of this out, and they're addressing these issues. So we don't have to start at square one. And while I'm at it, let me just give a shout out posthumously to Congressman John Conyers and to all of the grassroots organizations from New York to California who are doing this work, that we can also be seen as those who maybe we haven't been doing it for the 30 years that the senator speaks to, but it certainly started with John Conyers all those years ago, and the work has been steadily growing and continuing. We as grassroots organizers, right, educators, we want to be included in the discussion so that because we are in the community and we're seeing this on the ground every day, and sometimes people can become far removed from the situation, we want to be at the table so that we can come to those who are on the commission and say, these are the things that we're hearing on the streets. How will you address them from the perspective of making descendants of enslaved people in the United States whole? We have not been made whole. By the way, I'm also from Alabama. And so there's a whole lot of family right here on this stage. Right? And there's time when we think back, we have to be those who run like a herald with a message to those who are willing to listen. And of course, the senator, as well as all of his colleagues on the assembly side. I want to give a shout out to Assemblywoman Lucas for her hard work, and others, of course. They have done the work to bring us to a commission. Now we hope that as that commission, and we hope you have to, if you have to, do the override if that's needed, so that we can go forward. We do hope that they will be willing to listen to those of us who are on the ground.
Wow, I thank you for that. And you just hit the nail on the head. And I want to come back because you talked about the young people and how we educate and let them, at the end of the day, every generation has their fight and their war, and we need those young soldiers to be educated to go out and fight the war. While generals like General Sanders is out there doing this thing and making sure we get it right. So, with that being said, we're going to take a quick break and be right back after a message from a youth group that's on the ground trying to do things to help save lives of young black and brown. Or I just say black, just say youth in the borough of the Bronx. Bronx.
The Bronx Youth Empowerment Program, YEP, is a youth organization that has served the Northeast Bronx for 17 years. During our tenure, we have provided recreational and educational forums that have nurtured the growth of many youth in the community. YEP has also serviced hundreds of youngsters around New York City. YEP's target audience is youth from the age of 11 to 18 with the goal of helping youth become productive adults. YEP provides young people with resources to explore leadership skills, community involvement, and self-development. YEP consists of weekly and bi-weekly informational sessions with guest speakers from professional, political, and entertainment arenas. Also, as a part of community involvement, YEP will host trips to a variety of venues for educational and recreational experiences. As we continue to partner with other local organizations and serve our community, we will strive to unite and develop the youth in our community. The mission of the Bronx Youth Empowerment Program is building mind, body, and community.
Oh, yeah. Building mind, body, and community, the Bronx Youth Empowerment Program founded, and we're in our 18th year by Andy King and Eva Shillingford King, and still standing strong. Thank the Most High in Christ for putting that spirit on us to help young people get it right. And I say they keep me young, so it's a good thing. But we're here talking about reparations and understanding what that looks like for the future. And, there's a number of things that have been said about the traumas that blacks have gone through. And again, it's about this conversation is about no one else. It's about the black in America, the foundational black, the black who's gone through it, the families of who survived it or haven't survived it. And we got to be real fair in the conversations that when we start talking about reparations for black Americans, that we don't dilute the waters. So I want to talk to you, and I want to hear from you, Senator and Kevin Mackin. How do reparations truly make up for the struggles that the traumas that black Americans have faced throughout this country? Senator? Let's get his mic going.
Thank you. First things first, there's no way of making up for that. Those crimes against humanity are so high that you cannot make up. However, we're going to insist that they try, that they're going to do a real effort. Now, with that being said, at the end of this show, sir, I hope to give next steps. I hope to tell about some community meetings that we need to start opening this up to hear from the people themselves. And I'm ready to do that whenever you believe it's is appropriate.
Well, I appreciate that, yeah, because we definitely going to need to know what our next steps are. Megan, can you chime in too? And you heard the senator talk about, there really isn't no band-aid big enough to heal the wound that we've faced in this country as Black Americans.
Yes, he's absolutely right. It can't. I totally agree. There's no band-aid big enough. Um, I'm in favor, big time, of cash disbursement, but I do welcome the educational part. But it shouldn't outweigh cash disbursements. I want what's taken from me. So, in other words, when my mother's was raped and my father was sold, they didn't do it in an educational fund. What I would like to have is an identity. I detest the name African American. I never use it. I will sooner call myself Native American and check off Seminole Indian, which I have a Seminole background, before I claim African American. It's a term that Jesse Jackson gave us in, I believe, 1983. And along with four other people, we did not want the name. It does not identify us. What it does is categorize everyone. Technically, we're all African Americans. If you live in Europe, you African European. If you in Asia, you African Asian. If you in America, you African American. You following where I'm going with this? It's too broad and ambiguous. Our people are exceptional people. We are looked at as if we don't have culture, and we do have culture. The problem is our culture has circumnavigated this planet a few times, from the iron, from the air conditioner, from the refrigerator, from all of these inventions, the automobile, the lawnmower, the computer, the cell phone. It was done by foundational Black Americans. We've been good neighbors. We were treated very hostile. We've been good neighbors to this country. We've not been treated well. And give us the opportunity of being able to self-identify ourselves and moving forward. Because when you look at everything that is negative in this country, we're at the pinnacle of anything negative, and anything good we're at the bottom of. And if you were able to divide the pie, and I'll give you this example, and I'll yield because I know we have not that much time. But you take cases like HIV and AIDS. Black people have been the leader of that since in the face of it, ever since Magic Johnson got caught AIDS, right? But the reality is, if you were to say, well, how much of that is reflective of foundational Black Americans, the number is very, very, very low. So, I mean, we don't talk about it, but the Caribbean and the African and the Hispanic community makes up the bulk of that number. And so we're coupled in for a reason. It's almost as if this country has put us in a kennel, like a dog. We put us in a kennel, and you let us grow, and then never take us out of that kennel. And we start to grow deformed, and you point at the deformities of us and say, oh, look at their deformities, but you're not looking at the conditions that gave us the deformities. So I would love for us to be able to identify ourselves. I would love for us to be able to, in this, hopefully we could be in a protective class in New York State, like the Native Americans are as well. And with that, I yield. I'm sorry if I took too long.
No, I think you hit the nail on the head, and I applaud the energy in the conversation, because it's about an awakening. Not only just awakening for those who don't look like us, but awakening for us to understand how do we get in these conditions, and then we have to have the ability to pull ourselves out, to call it out to those who put us in these conditions. Pastor Deborah Jenkins, as we get ready to wind down, just give us your thoughts on where do you think we should be going in this conversation next, as a clergy.
Education has to be top drawer, right? There are not enough people who really know what this whole reparations push is about, and why we are so passionate about ensuring that this study be conducted, this commission come together to really consider the harms that have been visited upon formerly and those who were enslaved, formerly enslaved, and their descendants here in New York State, but not only in New York. Certainly, the work that's being done nationally has come to a screeching halt, but nevertheless, there's so much energy around it. Everyone is talking about reparations. So I really believe that we have to put a lot of time into educating our people. The others, they'll learn as they expose themselves to the opportunities. But I'm more concerned with having our people understand. I remember last year, a local politician was holding his Juneteenth event here in Co-op City, and I had an opportunity to ask if people knew about reparations, and many of the people were seniors, elders, and I heard people sort of scoff because they don't believe they'll live to see it happen. And while that may be true for many of them and many of us, I had to remind them that many of them did not believe they would live to see a President Obama ever elected. So we don't want people to have no knowledge because it is something that they can't even conceive of. We are people who have the information, and it is incumbent upon us to share that information. And so, Senator, when you're ready, I'm happy to be a party to your educational tours.
Well, I thank you. I thank you for those words. And Senator, we are going to let you close it out because just to wrap it everything up, we've heard a number of conversations tonight about what reparations look like, who should be entitled to it, who's going to divvy it out, who's going to make the decisions. All I just ask is that you have true people who are true to the cause, not having some of the best scholars in the world sitting at a table who might still have the oppressive mind when it comes to the Black experience. So being able to have the right folks, whether it's the janitor who worked in the hospital for 30 years, who's 87, who can sit down and talk about that experience, or that bright-minded 25-year-old who respects his elders or her elders. How do we put together these folks who understand what it truly was to grow up being Black in America? I know personally for myself, I can't get on a boat and go back to Nigeria. I got no family there. My lineage takes me back to Georgia and Alabama. After that, I'm in the Atlantic Sea. So these are the folks we're talking about reparations. How do we have that real conversation? Because they kicked everything off, and as Mr. Megan said, some people by choice came over and had a pathway back to someplace else. Where those of us who were forced in here and enslaved, our only landmass that we know is the landmass of America. So talk about next steps and what should we be doing to help me spearhead this cause, to make sure that the governor signs this and every other state gets on board.
Well, first, I, of course, want to big up the congressional efforts that have led many things towards reparations. But I want to remind us that a Black woman started the struggle for reparations in 1866. She was the first and created an organization. So we've been doing this for a little bit. And of course, women led the way there too. So now it's time that we take this into the community. We've had it in those great mountains of Albany, and I'm sure that that's an interesting place. But it's not real until we educate our people. And we're going to start next Thursday, not this one, not tomorrow, I believe. I can't even get my days right. No, day after tomorrow. We're going to do next Thursday, and we're going to start in Rochdale Community Center, where we are going to open it up from 6 to 8 in the evening and have a more open conversation. We'll, of course, send you a flyer, Brother King, so you can put it out next Tuesday. I was speaking to our dear sister Cordell Clear, and we were speaking of we need to create a letter and get every signature by every elected official who represents us, whether they are Black, white, Latino, whatever. We want to see whether they're going to sign on and push for this. The community, of course, needs to create, and we're going to create a petition rather, where we're going to get thousands of signatures, where we want to bring this to our dear governor and say, now, if you're worried about that you're going to stand by yourself, we are showing you we got tens of thousands of people who are going to come out there, followed up by calls, of course, because we understand that this is a battle for our 40 acres and an EV, an electric vehicle. And we also understand that as so goes New York, so goes the nation.
Yes.
And that we have to do it right here because we're going to push all of these things. I'm going to give everyone a telephone number so that they can get more information. And we're looking for your recommendations. Now it's time to come up with some recommendations of who should be on these panels. My telephone number is a 718 number, of course, and that number is 523-3069. I'll say that again. Now we do have a preference for New Yorkers, I must admit, and not nationwide, statewide, from one end of this place to the next. We have a preference. My telephone number is 718-523-3069. Boy, that's that modern technology out there. And my name again is Senator James Sanders Jr. And we are not going to stop till we get our 40 acres and an EV.
I love it, and I thank you. This conversation has been so spirited. I think we would like to do it again. But more importantly, I'd like to get you into the Bronx and figure out if we can hold, you're doing one in Rochdale Village. How do we bring one to the Bronx? I would love to be a part to help brainstorm and how organize and put something together and bring a number of people to a location and make sure that they sign without leaving that petition that you're all putting together. So I thank you, Senator, for that. But as we always do, we're out of time tonight. So I want to thank Senator James Sanders Jr., Pastor Dr. Deborah Jenkins, and my good man, the veteran, Kevin C. Meggett, for his information and all the wisdom that you all dropped tonight. And this is one of the beginnings of how we're going to change the world and how Blacks, Americans are treated here in the United States. Thank you again for being part of tonight's show. But as we always do on King Talk Tuesdays, we end every show with a scripture. Tonight's scripture reads from 1 Corinthians chapter 10, verse 13. There hath no temptation taken you, but such as is common to man. But God is faithful, who will not suffer you to be tempted above that ye are able, but will with temptation also make a way to escape, that ye may be able to bear it. If no one told you today, God loves you, and so do I. Your friend, your brother, and your neighbor, Andy King. Peace.